What is spiritual bypassing? You've probably experienced it, and you may be noticing it more and more recently. So let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Leslie, and I am a life coach based here in Brisbane, Australia. And this topic has been on my mind so much recently that if I tried to make a video outlining all of my thoughts on the issue, it would be hours and hours and hours long. So I'm going to try to be very succinct, and I encourage you to find more information about this topic because there is a lot out there. 2020 has been a uniquely challenging year for most people. We've had bushfires, we've had COVID-19 and the lockdowns. We're having more challenging conversations about race and racism, and that's all on top of the problems we usually face in our everyday lives. So some people are kind of in a bit of a panic situation, and they're looking for solutions, looking for ways to cope. And there are a lot of different entities out there with a lot of different ideas about what people should or should not be doing to cope with all of these challenges. There is no one-size-fits-all system or method for overcoming problems. There is no single personal development book that has the perfect wellness formula for everyone. Each of us, every person on the planet, we have our own individual context, different strengths and weaknesses, and a whole different set of moving parts that need to be taken into consideration when we have to navigate through a difficult set of circumstances to get to where we want to be in our lives. And that is one reason why everyone can benefit from having a coach. That said, however, every coach is different. We have different backgrounds, we have different life experiences and education, and these differences have a big influence on how we work with clients to help them live more purposeful and fulfilling lives. My method of coaching is very grounded in reality. I don't see life as a thing that we have to overcome by reaching some esoteric level of enlightenment. I see life's challenges as being more like a rodeo bull, or maybe a mechanical bull, whichever, where you have to build up the skills that will allow you to stay on the thing's back for as long as possible. Sometimes you get knocked off of it, and then you have to decide what you're going to do to get back on and stay on for as long as you need to. There has been a very disappointing practice growing and spreading exponentially throughout the coaching and personal development world. And that brings us to the topic of spiritual bypassing. So what is it? The term spiritual bypassing was coined by a Buddhist teacher and psychotherapist named John Welwood back in the 1980s. He defined it as the tendency to use spiritual ideas or practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. An example of this is when you approach someone and express a problem, and they try to help you by jumping too quickly to the spiritual. One example from my life is when I was suffering from recurrent miscarriages, and people would tell me things like, "It wasn't God's plan," or things like, "The universe will provide when it believes that you are ready." That is spiritual bypassing. It's dismissive and it neglects actual feelings and underlying issues. Another example is when people try to position themselves as being above the rest of the world's problems, especially in ways that fail to recognize their privilege, whatever kind of privilege that may be in a given context. And this form of dismissal isn't just something that is inflicted on other people, it can also be self-imposed. If you fall into a habit of using spiritual practices as a way to escape from your problems, that is spiritual bypassing. If you cling to a mantra as a way to pretend that the problems of the world have no impact on you, that is spiritual bypassing. At this point, I have to add some clarification. I am not against mantras. I'm not against spiritual practices, especially if they promote and sustain your well-being. But what I am against is using them as a superficial solution that is just going to lead to more problems. Like, say you suddenly lose your job. You cannot just sit back in a hammock and manifest a new one. You have to put in actual work. Or when human rights abuses occur, you cannot tell the victims to simply shift their mindset and expect totalitarian regimes to just go, you know what? You win. Change in those circumstances will only come through empathy combined with concentrated effort. And that's also where spiritual bypassing overlaps with the practice of toxic positivity. And I made a video about that recently. That one was specifically about the Black Lives Matter movement and the things that some life coaches were doing and not doing that were actively causing harm to the movement and to communities of color. Things like posting memes that suggest that racism is only a problem if you choose to see it. Or that the way to overcome oppression is to simply ask the universe for love and kindness in the world. That is spiritual bypassing. It is also extremely insulting. That is one reason I always say that if you are looking for guidance in the form of coaching, counseling, or anything like that, get to know who that prospective coach or counselor is under the surface. Are they just repackaging the same motivational cliches? Are they just vomiting positive vibes only all over everything? These are things that you need to know. Do the deep dive and find out before your first consultation. So here is my final takeaway. Saying things like live, laugh, love as a way to remember that there is light inside darkness is one thing. It can be helpful, yeah, but it becomes a huge problem when it's treated like a magic spell that is going to somehow elevate you above the problems of common earthlings. Because we have to accept that at some point, we need to come back down to earth. If you do things like go on a week-long spiritual retreat every time you're facing a challenge, those challenges are just going to keep fermenting, and they'll be waiting for you when you get back home. So you need to be sure that you have clear strategies to face those problems. Yes, do look within yourself. Do look to something greater than all of us, but do not forget that it takes more than just believing to overcome life's challenges. There is actual, real, practical work that needs to be done. And that is why I do the work that I do with my clients. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it with someone else who can benefit from it. Subscribe to my channel and hit the notifications bell so you know exactly when I've uploaded a new video. You can also book a free life coaching session with me through my website, leslievcoaching.com, and we can work together online or right here in my studio. Follow me on my socials to keep up with what I'm doing, and please get in touch with any questions, comments, or video ideas you may have. I'm Leslie V, and I'll see you in the next video.